Hello everyone and welcome to today's Zoo to You. Today I am in front of the gibbon exhibit and we have our gibbon family here enjoying some. You can see a lot of changes in the seasons right now. The snow is melting, the plants are emerging, and some of our warmer weather animals are also emerging at this time. So it's quite a treat to see our gibbon family out today. We have two brothers in this family. We have in the front, hanging on the rope, who just went behind the ball, that is the dad, Kian. He's 21 years old. And then we have two brothers. We have Gian, who is 7 years old, also black, just like his dad. And then we have True, who is 4 years old. And we have Aggie, who is out of the frame at the moment, but she is quite there. She is blonde in color, so it is very obvious to tell them apart. She is 22 years old. So Iggy the mom, Kian the dad, Gian and True are our two younger gibbons in this gibbon family. So in the wild, gibbons will live in subtropical places such as Vietnam and Laos. The average temperature is about 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which is why you don't typically see them out unless the weather is getting a bit warmer, like a day like today where it's over 40 degrees. And the annual average rainfall is between 4 to 6 feet. So it's a very tropical ecosystem. Their seasons are a little bit different than ours, but they have a rainy season and a dry season. So, just like at the zoo, in the wild, gibbons will mostly eat fruit. They're frugivores. So, fruit makes up the largest part of their diet, and during the rainy season, the fruit is widely available. So, they're not really having to travel large distances. They don't have to travel very far to find their favorite fruits. You can see today they're showing us how they'd be scavenging in the wilds. We have some food that's being offered to them, and they're going around and finding these foods. However, in the dry season, fruit is a lot less available, so they have to travel much greater distances and spend much more time foraging, as they're demonstrating now, and also eating more leaves during the dry season. And one of their superpowers, one of the reasons they're able to travel these great distances without using a lot of energy, is due to their very special way of moving. And so the fancy term for the way that they swing through the trees is called brachiation. And so you might even see, as the gibbons are moving about the exhibit now, you might see them brachiating. And it's essentially like, instead of grasping, as we might, their hands are pretty special. They have essentially hook-like hands, which form a loose grasp around the branches, and they're able to swing really effortlessly throughout the trees. And so they use these really strong muscles. We have one of our brothers demonstrating now, and flexible shoulders. They're able to swing through the trees using a hand-over-hand motion that is really quite remarkable. It's actually one of the most energy-efficient ways of traveling. And in addition to saving energy, this special way of moving helps them swing out and reach fruits at the very end of branches. So this allows them to access foods that other animals would not be able to reach. And if you've ever seen the gibbons moving really quickly, they can move up to 35 miles an hour using this way of travel, and they can swing across gaps of 50 feet in a single leap. So truly remarkable. So gibbons are apes. A lot of people will come to the zoo, and because they are smaller, they really do resemble monkeys, but they are apes just like us, but they have some of the longest arm length relative to their body size. So for example, northern white-cheeked gibbons, their arms are over almost 1.5 times the length of their legs. And if humans had similar proportions, say someone about 5'4", they would have an arm span of about 10 feet. So an easy way to think of it is, if you had gibbon arms, your arms would be almost twice the length that they are now. So these really long arms also help them to move so effortlessly throughout the trees. And if you see them walking on the ground, as you may be seeing now, they sometimes have to hold their arms over their heads for balance because their arms are just so long. But although our arms are not quite as long as gibbons, people can also brachiate. So sometimes you'll see gymnasts, professional gymnasts brachiate. You might see young children brachiate. It's definitely challenging as an adult, but it's been seen as actually a very useful form of therapy for children recovering from brain injuries because it accesses both sides of the brain. So it is some really good exercise. If you want to challenge yourself to see if you can swing, if you can brachiate like a gibbon, you can give it a go on one of a set of monkey bars or something like that. So as I mentioned before, they're receiving some fresh produce and browse. So during the winter, even though it's cold and they may not be able to be in their outdoor space, they have a whole indoor space where they get lots of enrichment, they get lots of different types of food, and the zookeepers are really committed to making their lives as enriching and as interesting as possible, even though they are inside. So a good example of this would be giving them puzzle feeders. They're really intelligent, so keeping their minds engaged, making it more challenging and more interesting to access their food. Scattering their food is another form of enrichment that we're demonstrating now. And so if you would like to help gibbons in the wild, you can take a page from their book and try to eat foods that are in season. We're approaching the summer and spring months, and so there are going to be a lot of great crops that are soon going to be ready to eat. So eating locally, eating seasonally, supporting your local farmers. Just like the gibbons save energy by not having to move around very far, this also saves energy for us and also helps support our local farmers in the areas that we're living. Although we live very far away from where the gibbons are found in the wild, there are still some ingredients in our foods and in our cosmetics that do come from places like Vietnam and Laos where gibbons are found. So a good example of this is palm oil. And there's been a lot of efforts trying to make palm oil more sustainable. But sometimes palm oil, in order to be grown, new rainforest is cleared. And so there are a lot of efforts to reduce these kinds of practices and continue to grow palm oil in a way that doesn't threaten the habitat of rainforest animals like gibbons. So if you are interested in this, there is a free app that you can download called the Palm Oil Scan app. It's a really great resource. You can just scan whatever barcode you have on whatever product you may have at home, and it gives you more information about where that palm oil came from. It was produced by the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo in collaboration with the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and it's a really great resource for anyone who is interested. So that is a little bit about the great way that gibbons are able to survive in their natural habitats and their really unique way of moving, which is quite special to this species of ape. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this moment.
A lot of folks, when they visit the zoo, ask if we have two different species of gibbons in this enclosure because of the two different colors. Can you just speak a little bit more to that?
Oh no, that's a great question, and it is a big confusion because they look so different. So Aggie gibbon, who is just on screen, she is the female, and in fact all gibbons are born beige. They're born essentially the same color as their mother, so they can blend in with her fur. And then at about a year and a half, they turn black. And then, believe it or not, if they're a female gibbon, they will turn back to beige anywhere between 4 and 8 years of age to mature and ready to reproduce. So they change color a couple times in their lives, but it is a really striking feature that they have, and it's a great question.
And another frequently asked question we get from visitors about many different animal habitats here at the zoo. If you're watching live, you might see some different things on the ground. So some shredded newspaper. A lot of visitors will ask us why there's trash in the animal habitats. Can you just speak a little bit more about what people might see when they visit the zoo?
Absolutely. Another great question. You do see some newspaper on the ground on the screen, and then there is what is a good example of a puzzle feeder. It looks like a little mesh square, like a little cube. And so zookeepers can put parts of their diet into these containers, and it makes it more challenging and more interesting for the animals to eat their food. So that's a really great example of enrichment that we have there. And if there's no other questions, I will bid you goodbye. Please enjoy the spring weather, and please come swing by and enjoy the gibbons here now that they're out given the warmer weather. I'll catch you soon.